How does a single cruel joke at a dinner party lead to being served divorce papers on the courthouse steps? What happens when the man you publicly humiliate turns out to be the one with all the evidence? This is how my husband's calm silence turned into the loudest ending of all. I should have known something was wrong when Jonas ordered the salmon without asking about the price. My husband never splurged on expensive entrees, especially not at Riverside Restaurant, where the cheapest fish cost $38. But there he sat, methodically cutting his food into perfect squares, while our anniversary dinner spiraled into chaos around him. "Leo, you look absolutely radiant tonight," Felix purred, sliding into the empty chair beside me without invitation. His cologne mixed with the restaurant's lavender candles, creating a heady combination that made my pulse quicken. "That dress is stunning on you." I felt Jonas's eyes on me as I laughed, tossing my hair over my shoulder. "Felix, you're terrible, this old thing." The emerald green silk had cost me $400, charged to our joint credit card without discussion. Jonas knew exactly how much I'd spent, but he'd said nothing when the statement arrived. "Old?" Felix's hand brushed mine as he reached for his wine glass. "Impossible. Everything about you is vibrant, alive, unlike some people who shall remain nameless." The table fell silent. Rosa, my mother, cleared her throat and shot me a warning look. Aunt Lydia, Jonas's stern-faced relative, set down her fork with deliberate precision. Even 7-year-old Maya stopped coloring her placemat to stare at the adults. "Felix," I giggled, feeling reckless and powerful. "You can't say things like that in mixed company." "Why not?" He leaned closer, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet table. "I'm just pointing out the obvious. Some of us are in our prime, while others—" He gestured vaguely in Jonas's direction. My husband continued eating his salmon, each bite measured and deliberate. His silence felt like a challenge, a dare to push further. The wine had loosened my tongue, and Felix's attention made me feel intoxicating, desired in ways I'd forgotten existed. "You know what, Felix?" I stood up slightly, my voice carrying to nearby tables. "You're absolutely right. Some people are just too old and dried up to attract anyone anymore." The words hung in the air like smoke. I watched as Nate, our family friend, slowly lowered his phone, his face pale. The couple at the next table stopped mid-conversation. Maya's crayon slipped from her fingers. Jonas finally looked up. His brown eyes, usually warm behind his wire-rimmed glasses, were cold as winter stone. He didn't speak, didn't defend himself, didn't even flinch. He simply stared at me with an expression I'd never seen before. "Leocadia," Rosa whispered sharply. "That's enough." But I was drunk on Felix's laughter, on the attention, on the feeling of being the center of the universe. "What? It's just a joke. Jonas knows I'm kidding around. Don't you, honey?" My husband folded his napkin with mechanical precision and placed it beside his half-finished plate. "We'll talk later," he said quietly, his voice so calm it sent chills down my spine. The rest of dinner passed in uncomfortable silence. Felix tried to restart conversation, but even he seemed subdued by the Arctic atmosphere that had descended on our table. Maya kept glancing between her parents with confused, worried eyes. When Jonas excused himself to pay the check, I noticed him speaking quietly with our server, his phone out, taking a photo of something. Later, as we drove home in separate cars, I caught glimpses of Jonas in my rearview mirror. His face was illuminated by the dashboard lights, expression unreadable. For the first time that evening, doubt crept into my wine-soaked confidence. What had I just done? The next morning arrived with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. My head pounded from too much wine, but the real pain came from the memory of Jonas's face at dinner. I found him in the kitchen, already dressed for work, methodically packing his lunch into the same brown bag he'd used for 5 years. "Jonas, about last night." "Maya needs to be at school by 8:15, he interrupted, not looking up from his sandwich preparation. Her permission slip for the field trip is on the counter. It needs to be signed. His voice was perfectly level, professionally polite. It was the tone he used with difficult parents during conferences, and it made my stomach clench with unease. Can we please talk about this? I tried again. I was just having fun with Felix. You know how he is. He brings out my playful side. Jonas finally met my eyes. Your playful side. He repeated the words like he was testing their weight. Is that what we're calling it? You're being dramatic. It was one comment, one silly joke between friends. Friends. Another word he seemed to be cataloguing. I see. He finished packing his lunch, kissed Maya's forehead, and headed for the door. I'll be working late tonight. Don't wait up. After he left, I called Felix, needing validation, needing someone to tell me I wasn't crazy. Leo, darling, you were magnificent last night. He laughed into the phone. The way you put that husband of yours in his place, absolutely fearless. You think so? He's acting like I committed murder or something. He's sulking because his wife has a backbone. Typical behavior from insecure men. They can't handle when their women show any independence. Felix's words soothed my guilt, reinforcing what I wanted to believe. Jonas was overreacting. I was just being confident, assertive, modern. There was nothing wrong with a little harmless flirtation. But as the day wore on, I noticed things. Small things that Jonas had never done before. When I tried to use his laptop to check our bank account, it was password protected. When I looked for our tax documents in his desk drawer, it was locked. When Maya came home from school, she handed me a drawing that made my blood run cold. What's this, sweetheart? It's our family, she said matter-of-factly. That's you, and that's Daddy, and that's me in the middle. In her 7-year-old artistic style, she'd drawn 3 stick figures. But the 2 adult figures were standing on opposite sides of the paper, as far apart as the margins would allow, with the small child figure stretched between them like a bridge. Why did you draw us so far apart? Maya shrugged. That's how you were sitting at dinner. And this morning too. Daddy was sad. That evening, Rosa called. Leocadia, I need to speak with you about last night. Not you too, Mom. It was just a joke. It was cruel. Her voice was sharp with disapproval. Jonas is a good man. He works hard, he loves you and Maya, and he didn't deserve to be humiliated in public. I wasn't humiliating him. I was just... You were showing off for that Felix character, and you used your husband as the punchline. That's not a joke, that's cruelty. Why is everyone taking his side? I'm your daughter. And he's been like a son to me for 8 years. More importantly, he's been a faithful husband to you. Can you say the same about yourself? The question hit like a slap. What's that supposed to mean? It means maybe you should think about what you're risking before you push this any further. After she hung up, I sat in our living room, surrounded by the life Jonas and I had built together. Wedding photos smiled down from the mantel. Maya's artwork covered the refrigerator. Everything looked normal, peaceful, exactly as it had been yesterday morning. So why did it feel like something fundamental had shifted? When Jonas came home at nearly midnight, I pretended to be asleep. I heard him moving around downstairs, the sound of papers rustling, drawers opening and closing. At one point, I thought I heard the printer running. What was he doing down there? The video appeared on Tuesday morning. I was scrolling through Instagram during my coffee break when Nate's post popped up in my feed. The caption read, "When anniversary dinners go wrong, #awkward, #couple goals, #not." My heart stopped. There I was, standing at our table, wine glass in hand, delivering my cruel punchline with theatrical flair. The video captured everything. Felix's encouraging laughter, the horrified faces of other diners, Maya's confused expression, and worst of all, Jonas's reaction, or lack thereof. The comments were already pouring in. OMG, she really said that to her husband? Poor guy just sat there and took it. Wife of the year right there. This is why I'm staying single. My hand shook as I tried to delete the post, but I had no control over Nate's account. I called him immediately. "Nate, you need to take that video down right now." "Leo? Oh, hey, I was wondering when you'd see that. It's already got like 200 shares. People are eating this up." "This isn't entertainment. This is my marriage, my family." "Relax, it's just social media. Everyone will forget about it in a week. Besides, you looked amazing in that dress. Felix certainly thought so." The casual way he said it made my skin crawl. "Take it down, Nate. I'm serious." "Can't do it, babe. It's already viral. The internet has spoken." By lunch, the video had been shared over 1,000 times. Someone had even created a meme using Jonas's stoic expression with the caption, "This is fine." My work email was flooded with messages from colleagues who'd seen it. Some were supportive, others were clearly judging me. My manager, Priya, called me into her office. "Leo, I need to address the video that's circulating. It's being taken out of context." "Is it? Because what I see is one of our communications coordinators publicly humiliating her spouse. That doesn't reflect well on our organization's values." "It was a private moment at a family dinner." "Nothing is private once it's online. You know this better than anyone. It's literally your job. I'm not firing you, but I'm strongly advising you to consider how your personal conduct affects your professional reputation." The rest of the day was a blur of whispered conversations and sideways glances. Felix found me in the break room, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "Don't let them get to you," he murmured into my ear. "You're fierce, independent, everything a modern woman should be. If Jonas can't handle that, it's his loss." His words felt like a lifeline. "You really think so?" "I know so. In fact, I think you should double down. Show everyone that you're not apologizing for being yourself." That evening, I crafted the perfect Instagram post. A selfie of Felix and me at a trendy downtown bar, cocktails in hand, both of us laughing at something off camera. The caption read, "Living my best life with people who appreciate my sense of humor, #no regrets, #authenticity, #blessed." The post got immediate attention. Felix shared it to his story with fire emojis. Friends from work liked it, but the comments section quickly became a battlefield. "Girl, your husband deserves better. This is just sad now. Where's your wedding ring?" I spent the evening deleting negative comments and blocking users, but they multiplied faster than I could manage them. When Jonas came home, he glanced at my phone screen and shook his head. "Making it worse won't make it better," he said quietly. "I'm not making anything worse. I'm standing up for myself." "By flaunting your relationship with Felix online?" "It's not a relationship. We're friends, Jonas, friends who happen to enjoy each other's company." He pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot. It was my Instagram post, but he'd zoomed in on Felix's hand, which was clearly resting on my thigh under the table. "Friends," he repeated flatly. I stared at the image, seeing it through his eyes for the first time. Felix's possessive touch, my tilted head leaning into him, the intimate way we were positioned. It looked exactly like what it was, two people who were more than friends. "Jonas, I can explain." "No need." He pocketed his phone and headed upstairs. "I have everything I need." Later that night, I crept down to his home office and found him organizing files with methodical precision. Spreadsheets covered his desk, filled with dates, times, and what looked like social media screenshots. A folder labeled documentation sat open, revealing printed copies of text messages I didn't recognize. When had he gotten so organized? So calculating? The Jonas I married was absent-minded, gentle, the kind of man who forgot to pay bills on time and lost his keys twice a week. This version of my husband was someone else entirely. Focused, determined, and quietly building something I didn't understand. Something that scared me. The rooftop fundraiser was supposed to be my redemption. Our nonprofit was hosting its annual gala, and as communications coordinator, I'd spent weeks planning every detail. This was my chance to show everyone, Jonas included, that I was a successful, confident woman who couldn't be diminished by one viral video. I chose my outfit carefully, a stunning black cocktail dress that hugged my curves, paired with heels that added 3 inches to my height. When Felix arrived as my +1, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit, we looked like something out of a magazine. "You're absolutely breathtaking," he whispered as we entered the venue. "Every man here is going to be jealous of me tonight." The compliment sent warmth through my chest. When was the last time Jonas had looked at me like that? When had he last made me feel desirable, wanted, alive? Jonas had initially declined to attend, claiming he had papers to grade. But 20 minutes into the event, I spotted him across the rooftop terrace, wearing his good grey suit and carrying a small notebook. He wasn't socializing. Instead, he seemed to be observing, occasionally jotting down notes or checking his phone. "What's he doing here?" Felix muttered, following my gaze. "I have no idea. He said he wasn't coming." "Probably checking up on you, controlling behavior, classic sign of an insecure husband." But Jonas didn't approach us. He maintained his distance, nursing a single glass of wine and watching the crowd with the detached interest of an anthropologist studying an unfamiliar tribe. As the evening progressed, Felix became bolder. His hand found the small of my back during conversations. He whispered jokes in my ear that made me laugh too loudly. When we posed for photos with donors, he pulled me close, his arm wrapped possessively around my waist. "Felix, maybe we should tone it down a bit," I suggested during a quiet moment. "People are starting to notice." "Let them notice. You're stunning, I'm charming, and we're having fun. Life's too short to worry about what boring people think." He was right. Why should I dim my light to make others comfortable? Why should I pretend to be less than I was just to protect Jonas's feelings? When the DJ started playing music, Felix led me to the makeshift dance floor. We moved together, like we'd been partners for years, his hands guiding my hips, my arms draped around his neck. The other couples gave us space, some watching with appreciation, others with obvious disapproval. I caught sight of Jonas across the terrace. He'd stopped writing in his notebook and was now holding his phone, the camera pointed in our direction. For a moment, our eyes met across the crowded space. His expression was unreadable, but something in his gaze made my stomach flip. "He's filming us," I told Felix. "Good. Let him document how happy you are. Maybe it'll wake him up to what he's losing." But as the song ended, I felt exposed, vulnerable in a way I couldn't explain. Jonas had seen everything: the intimate dancing, the whispered conversations, the way Felix's hands lingered on my body. Part of me wanted to march over and explain, to somehow justify what he'd witnessed. Instead, I let Felix lead me to the bar for another drink. "You're overthinking this," he said, ordering us both champagne. "Your husband is a grown man. If he has concerns about our friendship, he can use his words like an adult. But what if nothing? You're not responsible for his insecurities. You're a beautiful, vibrant woman who deserves to be appreciated. If he can't see that, it's his loss." The champagne bubbles tickled my throat as I drained the glass. Felix was right. I wasn't doing anything wrong. Dancing wasn't cheating. Enjoying male attention wasn't a crime. If Jonas felt threatened, that was his problem to solve. When I looked for him again, he was gone. The next morning, Maya was unusually quiet over breakfast. She pushed her cereal around her bowl without eating, stealing glances at Jonas, who was reading the newspaper with mechanical focus. "Daddy," she finally asked, "are you and Mommy getting divorced?" Jonas folded his paper and gave her his full attention. "Why would you ask that, sweetheart?" "Because Emma's parents got divorced, and before they did, her mommy started going to parties without her daddy, and her daddy got really quiet and started sleeping in the guest room." My blood turned to ice. "Maya, honey, Mommy and Daddy are just going through a rough patch. All married couples do sometimes." "But you don't sleep in the same room anymore," she persisted, "and Daddy has been putting papers in boxes." Emma's daddy did that too. Jonas reached over and squeezed her small hand. Whatever happens, Maya, you'll always be loved and taken care of. That will never change. The careful way he phrased his response, not denying her fears, but not confirming them either, sent panic shooting through my chest. What papers was he boxing up? What was he planning? After Maya left for school, I confronted him directly. What did you mean by whatever happens? Are you threatening me? Jonas looked up from his coffee with those same cold eyes I'd seen at the restaurant. I'm not threatening anyone, Leo. I'm just preparing for various possibilities. What possibilities? The ones you're creating with your choices. His calm certainty was more terrifying than any shouting match would have been. This wasn't the Jonas I'd married, the gentle, accommodating man who avoided conflict and always gave me the benefit of the doubt. This version of my husband was someone I didn't recognize, someone who seemed to be playing a game I didn't understand. And somehow, I was losing. Thursday arrived with the weight of inevitability. I'd found the red circle on Jonas's calendar the night before, marking today's date with an ominous finality that made my hands shake. When I tried to open the folder marked Archive B on his desk, it was locked with a small padlock I'd never seen before. The morning routine felt like a performance. Jonas made Maya's lunch with his usual precision, helped her with her backpack, and kissed her goodbye with tender attention. With me, he was politely distant, a stranger sharing space in what used to be our home. Jonas, we need to talk about whatever you're planning. Do we? He adjusted his tie in the hallway mirror, checking his appearance with unusual care. I thought you preferred to handle important conversations in public settings, with an audience. The reference to the dinner party made my cheeks burn. That was different. I was just what, Leo? Just humiliating me for entertainment, just flirting with Felix in front of our daughter, just posting intimate photos with another man on social media. His voice remained level, but each word hit like a physical blow. When had he become so articulate about his pain? The Jonas I knew stumbled over emotional conversations, preferring to retreat into silence rather than confront difficult truths. I never meant to hurt you. Intention is irrelevant when the damage is done. He picked up his briefcase and headed for the door. I'll be late tonight. Don't wait up. After he left, I called in sick to work and spent the day trying to piece together what he might be planning. I searched every unlocked drawer, every accessible file, looking for clues about his mysterious preparations. What I found terrified me. Hidden in his sock drawer was a small digital recorder. His browser history showed recent searches for divorce attorneys, child custody laws, and evidence of adultery. In his car's glove compartment, I discovered a manila envelope filled with printed screenshots of my social media posts, time-stamped and organized chronologically. He'd been documenting everything. Every flirtatious comment, every photo with Felix, every public display of disrespect. It was all there, catalogued with the methodical precision of a man building an airtight case. My phone buzzed with a text from Felix. Lunch today. I have news that might interest you. I met him at our usual cafe, desperate for the comfort of his attention, the validation of his desire. But when I told him about Jonas's evidence gathering, his reaction wasn't what I expected. So he's finally showing some backbone, Felix mused, stirring his coffee with detached interest. I have to admit, I'm almost impressed. I didn't think the math teacher had it in him. This isn't a game, Felix. He could use this against me in a divorce. I could lose custody of Maya. Would that really be so terrible? You're young, beautiful, unattached. We could travel together, explore the world without being tied down by domestic obligations. His casual dismissal of my daughter, my heart, my everything, hit me like a slap. Maya isn't a domestic obligation, she's my child. Of course. I didn't mean it like that. But his tone suggested otherwise. I'm just saying that maybe this is an opportunity for a fresh start. a chance to be with someone who truly appreciates you. For the first time since this whole mess began, I saw Felix clearly, not as the charming, sophisticated man who made me feel alive, but as someone who viewed my marriage as an inconvenience and my daughter as an obstacle. Someone who was perfectly willing to help me destroy my family as long as it served his purposes. That evening, Rosa came for dinner. It was supposed to be a normal family meal, but the tension in the room was suffocating. Maya picked at her food while glancing nervously between the adults. Jonas served everyone with mechanical politeness, playing the role of gracious host while his eyes remained cold as winter. "This is delicious, Jonas," Rosa said, clearly trying to ease the atmosphere. "You've always been such a wonderful cook." "Thank you, Rosa. I enjoy taking care of my family." The emphasis on my family wasn't lost on anyone. I felt like a stranger at my own dinner table, watching my mother and husband exchange meaningful looks while my daughter retreated into worried silence. After Maya went upstairs to do homework, Rosa finally addressed the elephant in the room. "Leocadia, this has gone far enough." "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do. This thing with Felix, the way you've been treating Jonas, the complete disregard for your family's well-being, it stops now. You don't understand the situation." "I understand perfectly. You're having a midlife crisis and using it as an excuse to destroy everything good in your life." Jonas stood up and began clearing dishes, but I could tell he was listening to every word. "Jonas is a good man," Rosa continued. "He's been patient with you, more patient than you deserve. But patience has limits, and some things break when pushed too far. Are you taking his side against your own daughter?" "I'm taking the side of what's right, and what's right is for you to end this affair, apologize to your husband, and fight for your marriage before it's too late." "It's not an affair. Felix and I are just friends." Rosa pulled out her phone and showed me a photo that made my blood freeze. It was from the fundraiser. Felix and me on the dance floor, his hands on my hips, my face tilted up toward his, our bodies pressed together in a way that looked unmistakably intimate. "Friends don't dance like this, Leocadia. Friends don't look at each other like this. And friends certainly don't post photos designed to make their spouses jealous." I looked at Jonas, expecting to see hurt or anger, but his expression was blank. Professional. He was observing my reaction like a scientist studying data, filing away every word, every gesture, every revelation for future reference. "Jonas," I tried one last time, "can we please just talk about this privately?" He finished loading the dishwasher and turned to face me. "What would you like to discuss, Leo? How you've been emotionally cheating on me for months. How you humiliated me in public and then doubled down on social media. How you've been lying to me, to yourself, and to our daughter about the nature of your relationship with Felix." Each question was delivered with surgical precision, cutting through my defenses like a scalpel through skin. "I want to discuss how we fix this," I whispered. "Some things can't be fixed," he replied quietly. "Some things can only be ended cleanly." He kissed Maya goodnight, hugged Rosa goodbye, and disappeared into his office. Through the closed door, I could hear the printer running, the sound of papers being organized, the quiet efficiency of a man completing a long-planned task. Tomorrow was Friday. Whatever he'd been preparing for, whatever that red circle on his calendar represented, it was almost here, and I was powerless to stop it. Friday morning arrived with deceptive normalcy. Jonas made breakfast, helped Maya with her school project, and kissed us both goodbye like any other day. But something in his manner felt final, like a man saying goodbye to a life he was about to leave behind. "I'll see you later," he said, but his eyes suggested otherwise. After he left, I found myself pacing the house like a caged animal. Every instinct screamed that something momentous was about to happen, but I couldn't pinpoint what or when. The locked folder marked Archive B sat on his desk like a ticking bomb, its secrets hidden behind a small padlock that might as well have been a vault door. Felix texted around noon. Meet me at Courthouse Plaza at 2 p.m. Want to take some photos for our social media. Show everyone how happy and free you are. The courthouse. Of all places, why there? But I was desperate for distraction, for Felix's reassuring presence, for anything that would quiet the growing dread in my chest. I dressed carefully, a flowing white sundress that photographed beautifully, paired with heels that gave me confidence. If Felix wanted to document my happiness, I'd give him something worth capturing. The Courthouse Plaza was busy with typical Friday afternoon foot traffic. Lawyers in expensive suits hurried up the marble steps, families clustered around the entrance, and tourists snapped photos of the impressive architecture. Felix was waiting by the fountain, looking handsome in his casual blazer and jeans. "There's my beautiful muse," he called out, pulling me into an embrace that lasted just long enough to feel inappropriate in such a public setting. "Ready to show the world how radiant you are when you're truly appreciated." He positioned me by the fountain, the courthouse's imposing facade serving as our backdrop. Click after click, he captured my laughter, my poses, my carefully crafted image of a woman living her best life. Other people paused to watch our impromptu photo shoot, some smiling at what they assumed was a romantic couple, others frowning at our obvious display. "Perfect," Felix murmured, reviewing the images on his phone. "These are going to drive your husband absolutely crazy. A beautiful woman, looking happy and free, right in front of the courthouse where he stopped mid-sentence, his face suddenly pale. "Where he what?" I demanded. But Felix was staring past me, his confident expression crumbling into something that looked remarkably like fear. I turned to follow his gaze and felt the world tilt sideways. Jonas was walking down the courthouse steps, dressed in his best navy suit, carrying a leather briefcase I'd never seen before. Behind him walked a woman in a sharp business outfit, clearly a lawyer, and behind her came Rosa and Aunt Lydia, both wearing the grim expressions of people attending a funeral. Maya was there too, holding Aunt Lydia's hand, wearing her favorite blue dress and looking confused but determined. "Leo," Jonas called out, his voice carrying across the plaza with calm authority. Perfect timing. He approached with measured steps, each footfall echoing off the stone plaza like a countdown to execution. When he reached us, he nodded politely to Felix, who seemed to have lost his ability to speak. "Jonas," I stammered, "what are you doing here? What's going on?" "Completing some necessary paperwork," he replied, opening his briefcase with practiced efficiency. "I thought you should be the first to know." He handed me a thick manila envelope, my name written across the front in his careful handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it, the legal documents inside swimming before my eyes as I tried to process what I was seeing. Petition for dissolution of marriage, custody arrangements, financial disclosures, evidence exhibits labeled A through M. "You're divorcing me," I whispered. "Yes." The simple word hit like a physical blow. Around us, the plaza continued its normal rhythm, but my world had stopped spinning entirely. "Jonas, we can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can fix this." "No, Leo, we can't." His voice was gentle but implacable. "Some things are broken beyond repair." I flipped through the evidence exhibits with growing horror. Screenshots of every flirtatious text, every intimate photo with Felix, every public humiliation I'd inflicted on my husband. The dinner party video was there, along with photos from the fundraiser, social media posts, even timestamps showing when I'd lied about my whereabouts. "You've been spying on me." "I've been documenting the truth. There's a difference." Felix finally found his voice. "This is insane, man. Leo and I are just friends. You're overreacting to some harmless flirtation." Jonas turned to him with the same calm expression he'd maintained throughout this entire nightmare. "Mr. Dawn, I'd advise you to be very careful about what you say next, especially since you're currently married to someone else." The blood drained from my face. "What?" "Felix Dawn, married to Rebecca Dawn for 6 years, father of 2 children. The divorce papers he mentioned filing last month, they don't exist. I checked. Felix's confident facade crumbled entirely. Leo, I can explain. But I was already backing away from him, the full scope of my stupidity crashing over me like a tsunami. I'd destroyed my marriage for a man who'd been lying to me from the beginning. I'd humiliated my husband, confused my daughter, and shattered my family for someone who saw me as nothing more than a convenient affair. The custody arrangement is generous, Jonas continued, his lawyer's voice cutting through my internal collapse. Joint custody, with Maya's primary residence remaining with me. You'll have her every other weekend, and 1 evening per week, assuming you can maintain stable housing and employment. You can't take my daughter from me. I'm not taking her, I'm protecting her. The evidence shows a pattern of increasingly erratic behavior, public displays of poor judgment, and prioritizing an extramarital affair over family stability. Any judge will see that Maya needs consistency right now. Rosa stepped forward, her face etched with disappointment and sorrow. Leocadia, this didn't have to happen. Jonas gave you every opportunity to end this before it went too far. Mom, please. He's been more than fair, more patient than you deserved, but you kept pushing, kept humiliating him, kept choosing that man over your family. Maya tugged on Aunt Lydia's hand and whispered something in her ear. Lydia nodded and led her over to where I stood, my world crumbling around me like a house of cards. Mommy, Maya said in her small, serious voice. Daddy explained that you and him are going to live in different houses now, but he said you'll still be my mommy, and he'll still be my daddy, and I'll still be loved. I knelt down to her level, fighting back tears. That's right, sweetheart. Nothing will change how much I love you. Will the sad man stop coming to dinner now? The sad man? The one who makes Daddy's eyes go cold and makes you laugh too loud. He makes everyone sad except you. Out of the mouths of babes, even my 7-year-old daughter had seen what I'd refused to acknowledge, that Felix brought nothing but toxicity into our lives, that my pursuit of excitement and validation had poisoned everything good in my world. Jonas knelt beside me, his presence both comforting and devastating. Leo, this doesn't have to be ugly. We can do this with dignity, for Maya's sake, but it is going to happen. The papers are filed, the process has begun. I looked at my husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, and saw a stranger. The gentle, accommodating man I'd married was gone, replaced by someone harder, more decisive, infinitely more capable than I'd ever given him credit for. How long have you been planning this? Since the dinner party. That night, I realized our marriage was over. Everything since then has just been documentation. He stood up and closed his briefcase, with a soft click that sounded like a door shutting forever. The house is yours until the divorce is finalized. After that, we'll need to discuss arrangements. My lawyer will be in touch about the details. As they walked away, Jonas, Maya, Rosa, Aunt Lydia, and the lawyer, I stood alone in the courthouse plaza with Felix, who was frantically texting someone, probably his actual wife. Leo, listen, he started, but I held up my hand to stop him. Don't, just don't. I looked at the divorce papers in my hands, at the evidence of my own destruction laid out in legal terminology and time-stamped photographs. I thought about the life I'd had just a few months ago, imperfect but stable, ordinary but real. I thought about the man who'd loved me enough to give me chance after chance, who'd endured public humiliation and private betrayal with quiet dignity until he simply couldn't anymore. I thought about my daughter, who would now grow up in a broken home because her mother had been too selfish and stupid to appreciate what she had. The fountain behind me continued its cheerful bubbling. Tourists kept taking photos, and the world kept spinning as if my entire existence hadn't just imploded. But for me, everything had changed irrevocably. Jonas had been right about one thing. Some things couldn't be fixed. Some things could only be ended cleanly. And as I stood there holding the papers that would legally dissolve the best thing that had ever happened to me, I finally understood the true cost of my choices. It was everything.